Every story begins with a quiet moment. A moment that feels ordinary until something shifts in the air. Some say the mind senses danger before the eyes do. Some say the heart hears truth before it is spoken. But this story begins in the space between both. The space where shadows move. And nothing is as simple as it seems. Most people believe influence is gentle. They think love, kindness, beauty, and charm are enough to shape the heart. But behind the surface of ordinary relationships lives a darker truth. A truth that has guided leaders, strategists, and subtle manipulators for centuries. A truth about how fragile the human mind can be when it does not understand itself. This documentary does not teach control. It exposes it. It pulls the curtain back on the quiet tactics used by those who twist emotion into power. So you can recognize the patterns. Protect yourself. And understand the psychology that moves people like shadows beneath logic. We begin with a concept that has echoed through history. The dangerous contrast between fear and affection. Fear is remembered. Long after love fades. It settles into memory like a scar. While love softens into background warmth. Manipulative personalities understand this imbalance. Not to build connection, but to create tension. They do not chase. They do not cling. They withdraw. Letting silence speak with a weight that confuses the heart. This silence is not calm. It is a calculated vacuum. A moment where the other person questions themselves rather than the manipulator. That is the dangerous part. Not the absence. But the self-blame it triggers. This is not attraction. It is emotional imbalance. A fog that grows when clarity disappears. The next chapter explores image. The crafted mask that manipulators wear with expert ease. Humans do not respond to truth. They respond to presence, tone, confidence, and the illusion of certainty. A manipulator knows this. They understand that posture can outweigh character. That a calm voice can hide chaos. That stillness can appear like wisdom even when it is only practiced restraint. They show only the parts of themselves that inspire curiosity. They reveal just enough to spark interest. And hide enough to create mystery. People mistake that mystery for depth. But depth is honesty. And manipulators avoid honesty because honesty gives away power. We move now to duality. The shifting balance between stillness and strength. Manipulators do not react. They observe. They do not shout. They wait. And when they do speak, they strike with precision. Their unpredictability creates emotional tension. And tension creates confusion. Confusion often feels like desire to those who do not recognize the difference. This is not charisma. It is contrast. And contrast is powerful when someone does not understand where it comes from. The next layer of manipulation is softer. But deeper. The planting of doubt. Manipulators know that you do not need to break a belief. You only need to tilt it. A single sentence, spoken calmly, can echo for days inside the mind of someone who trusts easily. They plant questions, not answers. They allow insecurity to grow in silence. Because silence feeds doubt like oxygen feeds fire. This is not connection. It is psychological division. The next chapter reveals a tactic far more subtle. The dangerous rhythm of punishment and reward. Manipulators punish with silence. Not anger. They allow someone to sit alone with their confusion. Wondering what went wrong. And when they want to rebuild closeness. They give affection in careful doses. Never too much. Never enough. Just a taste. Just enough to spark hope. This pattern is addictive. The mind becomes addicted not to the person, but to the unpredictability. It is the same rhythm that creates gamblers, not lovers. Then comes the observer. The manipulator who watches quietly, mapping behavior with near-perfect precision. They notice when someone feels confident, and when they feel exposed. They see the difference between real laughter and laughter used as a shield. They pay attention to subtle shifts, the kind most people miss. Then they speak one line, delivered without anger. One truth, sharp and sudden, that cuts through the room like cold air. And the person hearing it feels seen. Not in a comforting way, but in a startling, uncomfortable way. The manipulator gains power, not through force, but through the shock of being noticed. Now we enter the realm of absence. One of the most powerful psychological tools misused by harmful personalities. When someone becomes predictable, their value decreases. So manipulators do not stay. They vanish. Their silence becomes a vacuum. And in that vacuum the other person begins building stories, replaying conversations, searching for meaning. Absence becomes a ghost. It follows the person around. A reminder. A question. A shadow that sticks even after the manipulator returns. The mind remembers the silence more than the presence. And that memory becomes dangerous. Next we examine the turning point. The moment a manipulator becomes tied to transformation. People do not remember every relationship. But they remember emotional shocks. They remember the moment someone challenged them, made them feel small, made them rethink themselves. Manipulators often become associated with these moments. Not because they brought growth, but because they brought disruption. The manipulated person remembers the emotional earthquake, not the person who caused it. And finally, we reach the truth that pulls the entire documentary together. Manipulation is not magic. It is structure. It is pattern. It is predictable once you know what to look for. These tactics create silence, uncertainty, doubt, tension. They make the target feel off balance, confused, or strangely drawn to someone who offers no real stability. But once the pattern is recognized, the influence breaks. The spell fades. The fog clears. You take back your emotional balance. And their power dissolves. This documentary is not entertainment. It is awareness. It is protection. It is light cast into the corners of the human mind. Knowledge is your shield. Understanding is your escape. Awareness is your freedom.